Hi, this is Sarit Switzer, and welcome to the It Is Taught podcast, a podcast devoted to the teachings of Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi as recorded in his most famous work, the Tanya. My hope for this show is to make these teachings accessible and relatable to the average person, regardless of prior Jewish education or affiliation. The episodes follow the prescribed daily study portions and are meant to serve as practical lessons in how to live your life as your true self and develop an authentic and powerful relationship with your Creator. I have personally experienced the effects the study of this work has had on me, and I'm excited to share what I can of this knowledge with you. So please join me on this journey of learning, self-growth, and connection with your source. Hi, and welcome to the It Is Taught podcast. This is episode 266 for the 18th of Av in a leap year. So we've been getting to this whole discussion surrounding the letters of God's speech and what that's all about and how that is responsible for, how God's speech is responsible for creating all of the worlds. And this is part of a larger discussion in which eventually we're going to come to understand how it is that staka is a way of making God's name and what that means. So we're really delving into God's name. That got us into a deeper discussion of God's name, namely the tetragrammaton, the Yud Ke Vav Ke, and how those letters, Yud and He and Vav and He, really create all of the worlds, and how this is sort of like the idea behind when we say that the first two letters of that name, the Yud and the He, we say that the Yud created creates the next world, creates Olam Haba, and the He creates our world, the world in which we live. And we started talking about how all of this, what's the difference between the Yud and the He, and how Yud is really this like seminal point. It even looks like this like really small letter, and that's because it corresponds to Chochmah, which is this more like seminal kind of spark. And that is what we can think about in terms of being the form of the letters. Like it's sort of like the inwardness of the letters, like what the letters are in their kind of like more essential form state. And the He is this more manifest expansiveness of the letters. The He is this is what we can think of more as like leading into the matter of the letters. We do have the higher He, and then we have the lower He. So the higher He is still within like sort of the not totally actualized form matter state just yet, but it is leading towards that because we can think of it as like bina, and it's where the chokhmah of the yud starts to expand into dimensionality, into different ways and analysis and conception and stuff like that. And that's why when we look at the He, it actually has this more expansive state, and how that is the conduit, the channel through which we can get to that final He, which that final He is what we know of corresponds to malchus, which is speech. And that is the speech which creates our world. So this is what we're going to be talking about today, is our world, our lowly world, and how it differs from the higher world. So we began this discussion yesterday where we brought up the question where we said that like when we say that our world is created through God's speech, isn't all worlds created through God's speech? Don't we know that like the speech of God creates all worlds? And we started to talk about how the difference really has to do with this form and matter business. So it's like that, yes, God's speech creates all worlds, but when we talk about the supernal worlds that are above our worlds, in a dimensional sense, those are created through the form of the letters of speech. And the difference, and this is what we're going to talk about today with our world, is that it's created through the matter of God's speech. It's created through the actual mechanism, the manifestation of God's speech. So we can think about it when we think about actual like physical speech, like our speech. What's the matter of speech? The matter of speech is like the actual moving of the lips, the actual tongue, the teeth, and all these things that ultimately are conduits through which the breath, the hevel hapeh, it's called, the breath that issues from the throat comes out and is manifest. And that breath we can think of as being a He, because first of all, it sounds like a He. It's like a ha sound. And also the letter He has a numerical value in Hebrew of 5, and there are 5 articulations of the mouth through which this breath becomes manifest. So for context, we are still in Iggeres HaKodesh, Epistle 5. And so let's get into the text and see how the Alter Rebbe explains this whole idea about how it is that our breath specifically is this exhale of God in this more manifest kind of way. So the Alter Rebbe begins and he says that however, and what's the however is that yesterday we were talking about the world to come, and we were talking about how all of the supernal worlds, including the world to come, have to do with God's, or they're created through the form of the letters. However, says the Alter Rebbe, this lowly world and the life force that's within it is too small, it's too dense to be able to handle the light and the life force in a way of the form of the letters and their inwardness, to be able to shine and to influence upon them without any kind of garment and concealment. The way that it radiates to the neshamos, to the souls, and to the angels. And so instead, this radiance and this influence comes about into this world in a way of matter and in a way of the body of the letters and in their external forms, which is breath. This is the actual breath. So this is what I mentioned in the introduction. The body and the form of the letters is the actual breath. It's the actual manifest way that these letters get articulated. And these breaths are divided up into 7 different types of breath that are spoken about in Koheles. So Koheles talks about these 7 different types of breaths. And it talks about how these are the 7 breaths upon which the world stands. And this is explained further in the Zohar HaKodesh. And this is the Motzat Pi Hashem. This is the utterance that comes out from the mouth of God that is vested within this world and within all of its hosts in order to vivify it. And within it is vested the form of the letters. So the form of the letters is still here. So meaning to say the form of the letters specifically of speech and of thought, which we talked about what that means, which stem from God's holy attributes and ultimately from his ratzon, from his will and from his chokhmah, etc., which are totally unified with the Ein Sof Baruch Hu, with the Infinite One, blessed be He, with utmost unity. So the form of the letters, that like deeper inwardness, is still here. It's just that the way that it's manifest is in a way of externality. It's in a way of the manifest breath of God's exhale, so to speak, right? And so now the Alter Rebbe says that this is how we can come to understand a teaching of the Arizal of blessed memory, that the aspect of the externalities of the vessels of Malchus of Atzilus, which is hinted at in the Hay of the name of Havaya, of the lower Hay specifically, of the name of Havaya, the Tetragrammaton, blessed be He, they descended down, these external aspects of the vessels of Malchus of Atzilus, descended down and became the soul for the world of Asiya. So let's just kind of visualize that for a second. So you have the Tetragrammaton, the Yud K Vav K, the Yud, the Hey, and the Vav, and the Hey. The last Hey hints, it's an allusion to the aspect of the external vessels of Malchus of Atzilus. We spoke a little bit more about what that means in depth in other places, but it's basically the external vessels of the lowest part of the highest world. And these external vessels of the lowest part of the highest world descended down and became the soul of the lowest world, of our world, the world of Asiya. And now the Alter Rebbe concludes, just to kind of like bring this point home, that this is why it says in the Tikkunei Zohar that the Yud is in Atzilus, meaning the Yud of the Yud Kei Vav Kei is in Atzilus. And then it goes through each one of the letters that then the Hey is in the world of Bria, then the Vav of the Tetragrammaton is in the world of Yetzirah, and then the lower Hey nests in the world of Asiya, of our world. So that's the end of the section today. So really just to conclude, the main point that the Alter Rebbe is bringing out here is this idea that our world does contain within it the form of the letters. It is created through the form of the letters ultimately, but the way that it's manifest is through the external aspect of letters, which is the breath of God, the exhale that you can think of God. And it's that's because of that's all that we're able to be able to handle in our world due to the loneliness and the coarseness of our world. So that's the main point. And that's it for today. So we'll continue tomorrow when we begin a new paragraph in this same epistle, Epistle 5 of Iggeres HaKodesh. I'll speak to you then. Thanks for listening to the It Is Taught podcast, hosted by Sarit Switzer. This podcast is dedicated in loving memory of my maternal grandfather, Avraham Yitzchak ben Binyamin HaKohen of blessed memory. Music by Shoshana. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to support the show, please share it with others and subscribe on YouTube, Apple iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And make sure to leave us a 5-star review. To find out more about the It Is Taught project, including more information on my soon-to-be published book, please visit our website, itistaught.com. To catch the latest from me, follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Looking forward to speaking with you tomorrow, and until then, have a great day.